Hi guys, this is Nadia Hilker. I'm playing Magna on The Walking Dead, and you guys are listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast, and I'm sending you all my love. Bye!
Hello, my name is Catriona McKenzie. I play Lydia on The Walking Dead, and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. Yeah!
Hey there guys, I'm Callan McAuliffe and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through on Talk Through Media.
Hey, I'm Lindsley Register and I play Laura on The Walking Dead. You're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through on Talk Through Media.
Hey, this is Ross Marquand and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through.
Awesome.
Hey survivors, welcome to episode 139 of The Walking Dead Talk Through. I'm Kyle.
And I'm LT.
Hey! So as some of you know, this is coming out a little late, so sorry about that. But we got, just lots going on in my life. And I guess, LT, you were a little sick and trying to get together at the right time.
And it's like I was kidding Kyle earlier. Being that I'm the guy that never buys the Microsoft operating system when it first comes out, and I never buy a model of car the first year it's introduced, I had to wait a full 2 years for the pandemic to be engaged before I actually got the disease that everyone else was getting early. So the good news is I'm feeling much better. I have a voice now. I'm not running a temperature. And so due to my incapacity and Kyle's schedule, we were kind of delayed. So we should be back on the road and ready to go. And barring any other unforeseen circumstances, we should be caught up and ready
knock on wood.
Yes, knock on lots of wood. We should be ready to get this out of the way and then dive right back into our favorite little corner of post-nuclear fallout apocalyptic Texas.
Yes, fear.
For fear.
Well, good to hear, though, you're feeling better. That's better late than never. I don't know if that's really the right way to say it, but
well, I was going to say it was definitely an interesting week at my house. So,
well, good that you're back and I'm back, and let's get on with this episode.
Let's do it.
We will be covering The Walking Dead Season 11, Episode 16, titled Acts of God. But first, we did get some feedback about the podcast and reactions from Season 11, Episode 15, Trust, from Renee. And she sent in a voicemail, and I will go ahead and play that.
Hi, guys. This is Renee from Fairburn. I am calling in about The Walking Dead. First, I just want to I want to say hi, Mike. Welcome to our wonderful podcast. But I think it was Mike and Alma that said that they didn't like Max's pants. I love those pants. After they read you all's comment, they came down later, of course, and read mine. And Kyle was like, "Oh, okay, Renee like them." Yes, Max. That's my style. Besides that tied wig, the way that she dresses, that's my style. Her glasses, I think Alma said the big glasses, might have been Glennon. I like big glasses. I like high-waisted pants. I like bare bottoms, palazzos. The pants she had on, they're called palazzo, the wide leg. And like I said, high-waisted, that's my style because it hits you at the smallest part of your waist. And, most women like to accent their waistline. So they were super flattering on her to me. And to me, they're super flattering on me. But, everybody got different opinions. So, I respect that everybody's not going to like that style. But what she had on Sunday, she looked like a boss to me. She looked like a boss. But also, I wanted to ask you guys if it's okay, and I know I'll be talking and saying stuff, but maybe at the because I was listening to another podcast, which I stopped listening to a lot of podcasts, just you guys, And I listen to, I forgot the other one. I'll listen to that sometimes because I kind of like how they interact. And I think that's my whole thing about podcasts. I love the way that Kyle, you, LT, and Brian, I love the way that y'all interact. And y'all are definitely funny. When I listened to y'all Tuesday when I was at the gym, I was giggling and laughing because I'm always giggling and laughing. That's, I'm just a happy overall person. So I just like the interaction with you guys. Y'all, it just feel, y'all just make it, I just like it. Like I said, I just like the rapport that you all have. So I was thinking maybe we can do a Zoom because they were saying that they were going to have on the other podcast, they were going to have maybe try to run out a movie theater, and, invite different people for the, finale of The Walking Dead. And of course, everybody's not going to be able to go. I think it's going to be in San Francisco. So I was thinking maybe we can do a Zoom call for the finale, and we can maybe mute, our mute it so you can't hear everybody talking, and we can just type in. Because when I do, since COVID, I've been doing a lot of hair classes online. And, I go to attend a lot of, different different classes on doing different styles, just try to stay abreast of, what's going on today. So, I can keep my clients satisfied. So they've been doing Zoom, which I actually love it much better than actually going to the class. But what they do, they make you mute it. And then you can type in, and ask questions. So I was wondering, maybe we all can come together. Glenn, Mike, Dieta, of course. Dieta, you was so funny when you call, what's her name? That hooker. So when they read my, feedback, you're going to see I put that in there. But yeah, I was wondering if, just a suggestion, maybe, we all can do that because I know we can't all meet in one state because we stay, all over. But maybe if we can do the Zoom, then, that will work. So just a suggestion, you all let me know if, that sounds okay. But I want to wish you guys happy Resurrection Day. I'm going out of town. I'm going home to Savannah for the holiday. So I may not be able to get my Fear the Walking Dead feedback in. But I'm definitely going to be interacting, saying hi to you guys on Sunday because I get back on Facebook. But because I'm, out of town with my family, because, you out of town, you're always here, you're there, you never sit still. So I can just about guarantee I will not be able to get to watch Fear, until I come back, which is going to be Tuesday. So I may miss, my feedback, but I will definitely be sending it in, on next week. All righty. You guys have a wonderful Easter. Bye.
Thank you, Renee, for awesome feedback always. Definitely want to kind of pick up on what she said about Zoom because LT and me have talked about that.
Yes, we've been plotting and planning something like that. It's just we haven't been able to make it all come together because of schedules and things.
Yeah, it's and like we've done that in the past for our Patreons. And then we've done stuff where like we kind of have like a, everybody in the group can like come in and then there'll be like a point where it's like, okay. And then it's kind of like a, the Patreon like section of it, but we've never done anything where like, where it's like, we've like watched it all together and, which I don't know, can you do that in Zoom or not? I don't know if it's like that where you can share like basically somebody's screen and we can all
I don't know if we
watch
could do it. What we'd have to do is say, okay, we're going to start the Zoom call and we're all going to watch, if we watch broadcast, because I know everybody doesn't have AMC Plus, but basically set something up where like, okay, we're all going to get together and watch at the same time.
Yeah.
But
no,
what I want to do, and Kyle and I had talked about at some point, basically do like a roundtable state of the apocalypse. Where do you think we're at? Especially the fact that I don't think when Fear finishes, I think we're going to have basically a summer hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, I'd like to get, my thoughts is get everybody that wants to participate together and just say, okay, here we are. We know we have 8 episodes left. What do you think's going to happen? What do you think of things so far?
Yeah. like, yeah, just kind of like just get everybody's thoughts. And I'm totally on board for it. So, Renee, so thanks for bringing that up. Kind of help maybe put a little fire under our butts to get things going.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like, as everybody knows from what I posted on Facebook, it's like this sometimes, our schedules are hectic, and it's just, pulling it off and like getting it organized. So, everybody knows ahead of time and all that. So we will definitely be working on something.
And I think the biggest thing that, if anything, has shown us this spring is, we do this for fun. We do this because we love it. Mm-hmm. But sometimes real life will get the better of all of us.
Yep, exactly. Well, anyways, all right. Well, thank you, Renee. I was messaging her, while we were kind of delayed and stuff like that. And just from what she said in her voicemail, she did say that she will not be necessarily coming back right away. She was saying, or she said that her husband, something came up about his health. And so she's going to be kind of taking a step back for the next probably couple of weeks, but she did ask everybody to keep her and her husband in their prayers. And that everything, is going to be okay. And that's all I know about it. But definitely, Renee, we are there for you, and just, give you your thoughts and prayers. And if you just come back whenever you can, don't feel like you got to rush. Take care of your family. That's all that matters.
And we know you're out there, and we will be thinking and praying for you guys. And the big thing is, you take care of what you've got to take care of, because we'll still be here.
Yep.
And we know we love your feedback. We love, the way you respond to things, but you take care of what you got to take care of, and we'll still be here, and we'll be glad to see you when things settle out. So,
yep. All right. Well, thank you, Renee, again. So that was all that we really had for anything about last week's episode. So let's go into this week's episode. Season 11, episode 16, titled Acts of God, written by Nicole Mirante-Matthews and directed by Catriona McKenzie. Description from AMC Plus is Maggie prepares to defend Hilltop and the people of Riverbend against Hornsby. Meanwhile, Hornsby hires Leah to kill her. All right, let's go into our ratings. LT, what do you give this episode?
Well, I gave this 9 out of 10. Girl fight!
Is that with the Aaron and Daryl and all them against the troopers, or I guess, or no, the Maggie and?
Oh no!
Okay.
I was going to say that, despite the things I'm going to say about it later, I really enjoyed the big smackdown between Leah and Maggie, because it's been coming.
Yeah.
And especially, I'll go ahead and say it now, especially after listening to them talk about it on Talking Dead, that, both actresses were so effusive about how great it was to work with each other, and how much fun they had, and how much they put into the scene, and how hard they worked at it. And, it showed that both of them, gave it their all. And there were parts of it where it was, what was it? Leah and Maggie's stunt double, and then Maggie and Leah's stunt double, and then stunt double and stunt double, and then actually both of them. And I can't think of her name. Sorry, I'm still kind of fuzzy yet. But the actress who played Leah was just going on and on about how great it was to work with Lauren Cohen, and how wonderful it was, and how they had so much energy, and how they just absolutely loved the scene. And it was just it was just like a big love fest about how much they enjoyed doing that scene, even though to look at it, you realize that this was on a character level, this was a lot of hatred and a lot of bad feelings between the two of them. But to hear the actual players talk about it, it just blew me away on how much praise they had for each other and for the stunt coordinator and the crew that made that scene possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Lynn Collins is who plays
Lynn Collins.
Yeah. It was good because we were expecting it, and it was kind of like, okay, here's the big brawl. So I had a little issues with it, but it was not because of it happening, but it just.
Oh, so did I. There's going to be more commentary on that later.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'll go to my rating, and I gave it an 8. You want your piggy pig? I'm not a baby anymore, Mom. That's Herschel.
Yeah.
That's funny. He's growing up, Maggie. He doesn't need his
toys. He's growing up, and he's definitely not. Well, he's still doing a few Carly type things when Carl was a kid, but
yeah,
he's also way saltier than Carl was at this point.
That's still totally true. Well, because he grew up in this, and Carl at least kind of had somewhat of a previous,
Yeah, Carl had a little bit of a normal pre-apocalypse point, but poor old Herschel didn't.
Yep. All right. Well, that leads us into our listeners' ratings. And our first one comes from Dieta from Detroit. And she says, I rate this episode 7 out of 10. Okay, season finale.
Okay. And Glennis from Toronto gives it a 9.5 out of 10. Lance the Locust.
Clint from Indianapolis gives this episode an 8 out of 10 Commonwealth Championship banners. Smiley face.
Renee from Atlanta gives it 8 out of 10. Little Herschel ain't playing with Negan.
And Mike from Asheville gave it a 7 out of 10. Holy Two-Face Batman.
And Alma from Sacramento gives it 8.5 out of 10. This episode was good and had a few jaw-dropping moments, but I was left feeling a little meh. And she has a meh face.
Well, still overall, after the last several episodes we had, it's good to see that people are still liking it.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Let's get into our awesome sauce. All right, our first awesome sauce comes from Dieta from Detroit, and she says, Aaron, Daryl, and Gabriel's takedown of the Starship Troopers. And Maggie and Leah's cabin fight. Then Daryl with the kill shot. Wish it had been Maggie instead, but oh well. Leah is finally gone. Yep.
Glenn from Toronto says, just awesome fight scenes between Daryl, Aaron, Gabriel, and the Commonwealth soldiers, and then between Maggie and Leah's fight for survival.
Emma from the UK said, being back at Leah's cabin and Maggie and Leah facing off, Daryl knew just where to come, and we knew he'd have to take her down in the end. And Hornsby having half his face shot off couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, but now he's going to go full psycho.
Yes, indeed. And Renee from Atlanta says, Crazy Eyes evidently does not realize our peeps are not to be played with. Flex, flex. Daryl, Call Me Gabe, and Aaron make an awesome team. Daryl shooting Leah in the head was so befitting. I never did like that hooker. Dieta's words. In the first place. Shrug, shrug. Good riddance. And I believe it was Alma that called her a hooker first.
Yeah, I looked it up because I couldn't remember. I knew it got said on the Facebook post for episode 14, I think. And
yep.
Yes, Alma gets credit. But I think we all kind of could agree it's a good description for Leah. Kind of, I guess. All right. Well, Mike from Asheville's, his awesome sauce is Leah being taken out. Glad that was over with fast. Maggie hunting Leah in the woods. with the locust overhead, horror movie feels. That was cool.
Yes, it was. And so we have feedback from Alma from Sacramento. She says, was I the only one cheering when Leah finally got taken out? I love that it was Daryl that pulled the trigger with no hesitation. Woohoo! Ding dong, the witch is dead. Lol. I like the locust in this episode. It seemed to put me more on edge. How about y'all? I'll agree.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, hot sauce. I thought Max's outfit in the end was hot AF. And I agree. Can't wait to hear y'all's thoughts. And by the way, LT, you crack me up, especially when you read my comments. You read my slang perfectly. We aim to please, Alma. We aim to please.
Yep.
And so on that comment, Mike from Asheville replied and said, Max did look good this episode. And yes, the locust added a nice touch to the episode. And Deetta replied as well and said, I agreed. I felt the same. This episode was just all right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all agree with everything. And obviously, I mean, it seems like, everybody agreed the fight scenes were kind of probably like the awesome of all.
Oh yeah.
No, I'll just go into mine because it was just a little bit, because I thought that like just the start of it in the cold open, I thought really kind of helped set the whole mood of this episode. And it was like, we kind of already knew like, some of like, okay, this should happen, or like Maggie and Leah are going to, have their big brawl and stuff like that. I wasn't quite, I not that I didn't expect it, but it did kind of like I thought Daryl, Aaron, and Gabriel were in trouble for sure, but I wasn't expecting that Hornsby was going to like basically put the hit out on him. So it did kind of surprise me a little, like, oh, that's how he's going to play that. I thought it might have been something like more of like they're at the Commonwealth and then like he does something or like puts them in jail.
No. That's.
I was happy to see it though.
See, that to me would have had too many witnesses and too many people who weren't down with the program.
No, I agreed. It's kind of like, I just wasn't quite entirely sure like how it was going to play, but then seeing that, I was like, okay, that's awesome. Like
right.
I'm ready for this. Seeing our guys get to basically, take on those stormtroopers. But, anyways, like, it's just the beginning in the cold open is like, in the locust sounds, because that was obviously like, played throughout the whole entire thing. And it was a huge, like kind of environmental, like, settings. And then it was like Lance coming out, like looking all like mad, like crazy basically. And then he steps on poor Marco's head or his remains, which of course we didn't know that at the time. But it was just so, they've done this before, in some cold opens where it was just quick and brief, but it would just like, it set the whole tone. And I totally just really, really enjoyed that. That's how this opened up. So that was pretty much my awesome sauce with everything else that everybody said. What'd you have?
Before I get started in mine, the part about the cold open that got to me was when, Hornsby stepped in poor Marco's head mush, and then he was like, ew. It was like trying to wipe it off his shoe. I'm going, you may be Mr. Evil Villain, but, you're worried about your footwear.
He has to look a certain way.
It goes with the tie, I guess. So my awesome sauce, to sort of go with something you had said, whenever our guys got the feeling that Hornsby's putting us out in front, and just that scene when they were going into that little junkyard, the way that Daryl kept looking and the look in his eye, and he would look over it, and he looked at Aaron and he looked back over at the troopers and he looked back over at Gabriel. I was going to say, boys, if you're going to try to catch, our crew, catch the survivors unawares, you're going to have to be a lot slicker than what they did.
Mm-hmm.
because they did kind of telegraph what they were about to do. And you're going to have to, you're going to have to get up a little earlier in the morning to get the drop on Mama Dixon's baby boy. I mean, that's just it. That whenever Daryl kind of knew what the deal was, I think that in the context of the show, Aaron, Gabriel, and Daryl have been together so long that they don't need to say things to each other to convey messages. And it was obvious to me that just that little side look was enough to cue everybody in that something was about to go down.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, and that was like, I thought it was interesting too that it was like that, like Daryl was completely out of uniform.
Yep.
And I was kind of like, okay. I mean, he still had, I guess, the black underbelly or whatever the deal, but still, it was like he was completely like not in uniform. And then, but then also it was like the Commonwealth soldiers were being like jerks to him, like just, and I knew I was like, okay, obviously something's going on because they're basically just treating him like crap and saying, no, you guys keep doing this or whatever. And then Gabriel even like, I guess Hornsby, called over the walkie, and then I don't know if it was Gabriel or if it was Daryl that mentioned, he's like, oh, Hornsby's checking in on us. And it was kind of like, yeah, that, like you said, it's like they didn't really do a good job of trying to like hide it. They were just like, just kind of pushing them around.
If you want to push the Star Wars analogy on it, that was probably the worst executed Order 66 ever.
Yeah. But yeah, it was good. That whole scene, and
even though I'm going to come back to it later, that shootout in the junkyard also showed the difference between people who have actually been shot at and people who actually haven't been shot at. That, look at, even though I know it's a TV show, but if you look at the way that Daryl, Aaron, and Gabriel reacted versus how the Commonwealth guys reacted, I think that also shows that, experience matters. You can train up to a point, but unless you've actually been in that position, you're not going to react the same. And our guys won. Our guys took them out. Yeah,
but also it's like it's not like, you kind of maybe turn it around to like, oh, if they were like from the Commonwealth and that's what their life was brought up like, where they have, little experience of dealing with the outside world or being threatened. It was like our guys immediately just like took action. We're like, knock this guy out, grab his guns. And then Gerald's like tossing the gun over to Aaron. Yeah. And then it's like, it wasn't like they were running and like hiding. They were just like, okay, you want to fight? Let's go.
Well, and that's to just sidebar that. Once upon a time, amongst all the other things I've done, when I've played paintball and played airsoft, one of the things that I learned in service is there are times when if you are under an immediate ambush, the best way to get out of an ambush is to fight back. And sometimes you have to immediately meet aggression with more aggression. And the story that I'll just throw out here is we were playing airsoft, and the kids that I were playing with, their reaction once they started getting shot at was to hunker down and shoot back. And me, being the old grumpy, previously trained former Army, former cop kind of guy that I am, is that we were going through some bushes and a guy jumped out and shot at me, and I basically screamed and ran towards him and kept shooting. And this locked him up for a moment long enough for him to not react quickly enough, and I took him out. And that's the difference, that I think that when Daryl committed to the action, Daryl continued to commit to the action. Mm-hmm. That the reaction is, when the Commonwealth guys were getting shot at, they paused. Yeah. That had they moved towards Daryl, Aaron, and Gabriel with, shall I say, murderous intent, and would have fired and carried the aggression to them, it might have been different. But what I saw was when Daryl was in the kill zone and they were shooting at him, Daryl reacted to violence with more violence, and that's why they won. And that goes back to, experience training and that other part, that when you're in that position, you react to force with force and greater force. So it just sort of worked out.
Yep.
So on a second note, and Max and Eugene looking all coupley. I mean, I could do this for all sauce, but I'm going to do it for awesome sauce, because I thought they looked very sweet together when they were actually, this was actually the Stephanie in Eugene's apartment that we wanted from the beginning, not what we originally got. And I did think it was cute that she was reading a physics book.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, suitably apropos for what we'd expect for anybody that would hook up with Eugene. And I will go out on a limb and say that I think that now that the two of them are actually hooked up, I think Max is actually looking cuter. I think that actually, having the fulfillment of her radio romance made her happier. Even though they are now in the midst of a great controversy trying to undermine the Milton regime in the Commonwealth, I think that Max is looking like she's in love. And I have absolutely no problem with that. And about our boy Lance. So I think the awesome thing is we finally get to see that thin veneer of used car salesman crack a little bit, and we're starting to see the diabolical evil mastermind come leaking out. And I would say, no, he didn't have half his face shot off, but he got a nice big tasty crease on his cheek.
Which looked wonderful on him.
Oh, yeah. And, I'm sorry, maybe it's Heath Ledger Joker or, some of the other classical movie villains with scars on their faces, but, having that big divot in his cheek just sort of accentuated that look, when he looked into the camera and he's got the blood streaming down his face, that you saw the crazy. I mean, you've kind of seen flickers of the crazy, but you actually saw the crazy. And just to sidebar that, Josh Hamilton was on Talking Dead, and they were talking about the stare. And it was hysterical because he was saying that, they tell you that when you're looking at the camera, you have to think of something to make the look linger, as the camera might be on you longer than you expect after you deliver the line. And he made a crack about thinking, who farted? So it was that one, that one quirked eyebrow and that open-eyed stare. It's like, so now every time I see that, I think about what he said, and it's like, who farted? But it's just like when they had the interview with the kid who plays Sebastian, is I enjoyed listening to Josh Hamilton talk so much, and he seems like such a nice guy. And it's tough to say, oh, I hate your character so much, but you seem like such a nice guy. But he actually puts a lot into it, and you can tell, because I said it earlier when he first showed up, that Hornsby he's the kind of villain that I've been wanting in Walking Dead for a while. Because he's multifaceted, and he is such a bad guy that I love to hate. That it's okay. The difference between him and, say, Negan, when Negan was in full Neganness with the Saviors, there were things that he did that you go, God, what a bastard. I hate this guy. But yet, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, the way he played it, there was still times when you kind of go, yeah, but he's funny, and he's got, because it's just the difference in presentation that Hornsby, he can't, joke or say something funny or make some, there's no way that Hornsby could make a pooping pants comment and redeem himself and get a chuckle the way that Negan did.
Yeah.
He's just a bad guy. And I'm glad they finally got a bad guy worthy of the series again.
Yeah, I agree. He's like, that's a very good point, because it's like the whole time he's, been on the show and we're seeing him and stuff like that. It's not like a Negan where it's like he makes those funny little quirks or quirps or whatever. And then like Hornsby just always comes off as being like, just like condescending and like
and schmarmy
and like smug, and like he like thinks he's like above you and smarter than you and this and that. And yeah, it doesn't come off like him making a funny comment like a Negan. It just wouldn't play, because I'd be like, okay, that sounded stupid.
Yeah. And it's like last episode, the whole interaction with him and Herschel, that you were going, you rat bastards, leave that kid alone. Where, you remember the way that Negan and Carl, the way they interacted, it was still, you got a little bit of that, but in the other side, you kind of went, it's like Negan had some respect for Carl.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And Hornsby is, like I said, he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. He thinks he's playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers. And I think where he's getting frustrated and where this evil streak is coming out is the fact that he's not able to pull stuff off like he did before. That with the introduction of, our crew of survivors into the mix, he realizes that he's not able to do things quite with as much impunity as he did before. And like I was saying earlier, whenever he decided that he was going to bump Aaron and Gabriel and Daryl off, that I think pretty much was decided on the rooftop. Whenever he did his little speech about, you guys survived, you managed to survive, and all these other guys died. I think he pretty much knew what the deal was, and he was just waiting for an opportunity, and this happened to be the opportunity.
Yeah. Totally agree with that.
And of course, he failed. So now it's going to be interesting to see what happens, given the fact that, his commando strike at Hilltop failed, that his setup to get Aaron, Daryl, and Gabriel at the junkyard failed. And so now you've got 3 people who are very capable, who know how to survive, who know how to get out of tight scrapes, that understand what he's up to, and they're loose. So I think the last awesome thing I wanted to throw out is, once again, the writers must have read my mind, because Daryl actually uses the bayonet on the rifle as it was intended to be used. That of all the people who I would, not necessarily expect to be a devotee of the bayonet, Daryl comes through and uses it like it was meant to be used. So that makes me happy to know that somebody was paying attention.
He was listening. Because, the stormtroopers don't do it, and it's stupid that they're not.
If you're going to be carrying a rifle with a pokey thing on the end, use the pokey thing for what the pokey thing was meant to be used for.
All right, well, then that was all we had for awesome. Let's go into week.
You're worthless and weak.
And our first week sauce comes from Mike from Asheville, and he says, Maggie's starting to trust Negan. First of all, the fact that she had that much hatred for 8+ years bothers me. In this world, there's no room for that. It's cruel. Move on. She has Herschel hating Negan just as much, and he never even knew his dad. In real life, I'm all for this and feel for them. In the show, no. So for her to take a hard turn and start trusting him is just the writer setting up their buddy enemy series. That whole dynamic is weird and has been strangely written, in my opinion. We need more time for this to grow. I can't disagree with that. They've been working though on this kind of redemption-ish for Negan for many episodes, and that's where I'll bring this up in my stuff that I was going to say, because there's just kind of like this whole deal of what they ended up doing. So I'll leave it at that for now.
I agree.
Thanks, Mac.
So, Dieta from Detroit says, how many soldiers did Hornsby have on this little mission? Because as soon as 5 get killed, 10 more show up out of the blue. And how is he justifying all these soldiers coming from the Commonwealth? Hasn't Mercer or Pamela not noticed the missing soldiers? You would think at some point somebody is going to say, what happened to such and such? He never came back from the Hornsby mission. Do they not have families? And she's got a chin scratch and kind of a well, that's not a meh. It's sort of like a half frowny, maybe a quizzical face. Yeah. Sorry, kids, we're not emojiologists.
And I keep like hovering over it, thinking that it's going to like pop up saying, what it is. It doesn't do that on Google Docs.
No, that's correct.
Yeah. No, I think that's kind of an interesting question too, because it's like I kind of been taking it that Hornsby kind of has his own little outfit of soldiers, that he's not just conscripting them from like the main deal. I feel like this is kind of like his own little.
It would stand to reason that if he's going to have these guys that are off doing his secret missions, that they're sort of like a special detachment and they're not, in with the regular crowd. And so maybe he picked guys that are, that are single. We don't know what his selection criteria were, that maybe he's got people that he knows he can trust after a while, or they would have been on the list. Maybe they owe him a favor. But the other side is, all they'd have to do is the same thing that the modern military does. If you are in some sort of covert operations thing, depending on what it is, they can say, well, he was killed in a training accident, or, make up some kind of a weak cover story, because there are still guys that were in the special forces / covert operation stuff in Vietnam, where their award just says, for meritorious action while, doing operations in Southeast Asia. They don't say, well, they saved their buddies while they were across the border in Laos where they shouldn't have been.
Right.
So it's plausible, but I agree with you that if all these guys start turning up dead, that at some point somebody's going to ask questions. And I think that's going to be, just to throw this in before we keep going, is I think that may be part of the tipping point for Hornsby, is eventually somebody's going to ask questions. As a senator once said, $1 billion here and $1 billion there, and eventually you're talking about real money. I think that at some point somebody's going to ask questions, and somebody's going to start, pointing fingers and saying, so what happened to all these guys? And what are these little side projects you're working? Because as we've known with things that have gone on in the government in the past, there is a tipping point. There is a point that you can get to where eventually somebody's going to ask questions.
Yep. How much does Pamela know? How much is she involved in? Because it seems like that she's
not. I think,
right.
Like I said, I think part of it is she doesn't know what's going on exactly, that she's just let Hornsby do his thing. And when it starts making her look bad and people start asking questions is when she's going to start asking questions.
Yep. And that looks like it's to come.
Yep. So I think the last bit of week we had was Emma from the UK, and she says, I don't have a whole lot to say about this episode. Bit of an anticlimax, and was going for more of the finale of part 2. I was hoping to be closer to the Commonwealth being taken down.
Yeah, I think that is the setup that they wanted for this episode, since we do have 8 more left.
Yep, because I think we wanted to have the cliffhanger of, obviously, our communities are now in jeopardy of being taken over, or actually have been taken over.
Right. All right. Well, thank you everyone for your weak sauce. That gets into ours. I kind of, I'll just start with this because of what you had said about you're awesome with Daryl using the bayonet. I thought that it was just weak or stupid because I mean they're playing, or they're playing it this way, or somehow it's coming up. We've joked about the stormtroopers basically seeming to be like acting like stormtroopers, so they don't really do, like, they're not great, or they don't act great. You know, they let people sneak up on them because they're standing in front of a doorway, you know, and like get shanked like super easy. Like, you know, it's like they're not listening or something. But it was like the what was his name? Romano, the bald guy. The bald guy. So they're in the house with Daryl and all them, you know, and those walkers come through the door or whatever. And I guess he like goes to like, I don't know if he was trying to punch it or stab it or whatever, but his foot or his fist got stuck in the wall.
Yep.
And so this walker's all over him. He's all like freaking out, like, oh my gosh, whatever. But then right behind him are like 3 Commonwealth soldiers, and they're just like kind of just like pointing their guns, but like going back and forth. But they all have bayonets on the front of them too. And so he's like struggling. And you would think that like Daryl's like, oh, here, and he just goes in and basically takes out, the walker or takes out walkers. And it's like his own soldiers like are just standing there and they're not doing anything. You would think that they would go in and be like, oh, here, let me help you. Instead, it's like they just sit back and watch. And
one would think.
Yeah, it seemed, I don't know, it just seems so like, I was kind of like, dude, you're like literally standing next to I'm assuming you're like the boss. And I was like, and you're not doing anything. And you have this bayonet on the end of your like rifle. Like if you're trying to, like, if you're like trying to like shoot the walker, but you're like waiting for the shot because he's in the way. But anyways, it just, these Commonwealth soldiers are just like,
yeah, I mean, even if they were locked up like they were, and the walker's trying to munch on Romano, and his armor's keeping him from getting munched, dive in there, grab him by the head of the hair, and shank him with your K-bar. Do something. It's, even though we had that big teamwork episode when Rosita and Daryl were going through their training, it seems like the Commonwealth guys don't work real well together.
Yeah. Yeah, they all still are pretty much what I guess they're still on their own. They're like, oh no,
and maybe they're thinking, well, hey, if he gets bit, then maybe I can get promoted.
Maybe.
Promotion by attrition is not a plan, but
yeah, I don't know. They're all weak in my opinion because they're acting like they're robots that don't do anything unless they're ordered and on screen.
Well, and see, that's the funny part, because the guys that Hornsby tapped to go with Leah, it's like as soon as they took their armor off and were in their, covert operator ninja suits, they seem to be moving a lot more fluidly and a lot better than when they were still wearing their armor. And I don't know if those were the guys they picked or if it just was part of the deal, but it just seems odd to me.
Yeah. Well, then I'll go to my next part, which is kind of like just about Maggie. Well, not necessarily about Maggie, but it's like the part where Leah is on top of Maggie with a knife getting closer to her chest. Like, I really was like, it might have been scarier or more tense if we didn't already know that Maggie was going to be in the spinoff with Negan. Like, that whole scene, I kept thinking, even in my rewatches, I was like going, oh, this would have been that moment where I've been like, oh no, like, are they going to kill her off? Like, is this bad? Like, is this going to happen?
Yeah.
But, that's right. They already basically spoiled it all with their announcement that, she's in a spinoff, with Negan.
Yep.
And so, with what Mike was kind of saying, it's like, yeah, they've been doing this redemption arc with Maggie, and it's like, if they did not, why they made that announcement, and I think even Jeffrey D. Morgan was kind of like not happy about it, that it's like they spoiled like all these like parts that we would probably be talking about, being like, oh my gosh, my heart was pounding, or like wait, what's Negan doing, like what's Maggie even thinking about this?
Oh yeah.
But so
well, and I agree with you that even if they would have let Leah cut her, if there would have been a little bit more, knife body contact, it was pretty tense. But like you said, considering that we know that she's going to survive, kind of took all the real oof factor out of that scene.
Yeah, completely. Like, all of it. I mean, it was just fun to see, but you're like, we know that's not, I mean, anyway, so I'm still kind of like not really happy about that whole situation. But then this is just more of like, cause I have been noticing this more like I think it's because like when I went and saw Halloween Kills, and I've never like I'm not a big Halloween like fan. I've seen some of them, but it was kind of like everybody, like my husband is, and they're like, oh, we got to go see it, and you know, it was like, okay, you know, anyways, so it's like basically though, it's like so Maggie is in that forest. It's dark, trying to like find Leah. And they're sneaking around or whatever, and this and that. And sure enough, you know, Leah like knocks Maggie out. So I was kind of like, okay, wait, why do they always do this? Because it's like, so like the bad guy basically gets the one up on who he's trying to, or they are trying to kill. But then instead of doing it right then and there, oh, I'm going to go take you to my or in this place, her cabin, and tie you up so I can have a chit chat with you. And they did this in Halloween where it was like, oh, like it was this intense like fight scene, or Michael Myers was like getting ready to go and like kill these people, and then they were spending they had a gun and they could have just been shooting him the whole entire time, but instead they're like doing this stupid dialogue. And I was like,
yep,
you're wasting time. Like, come on. But then I get it. It's like, cause it's the show and it's for the plot, you know, but I just, that always like pisses me off. And because it's just like, you had the chance. Why are you waiting? I would have knocked Maggie out and shot her right then and there. Like, and you're supposed to show the body to Hornsby, but it's like instead you want to have your little like heart-to-heart moment of like how much I hate you and blah blah blah, and it's, I don't know, it always gets to me when I see these things. But then last it was like I mean I wasn't surprised with, you know, obviously Hornsby saying, and he actually says like, oh, you know, it's like, we'll take everything or we'll take it all, you know. And so he takes over Hilltop and Alexandria, but then it was like Oceanside, and like I don't know, I just wanted to see more of what happened at Oceanside, because it was like, did they even fight back? Because I feel like we've seen Oceanside, like when they're being attacked or whatever, like they're kind of like a formidable force. Like they've like seem to have kind of like plans, or like, you know, like hide from people. You know, when we first were introduced with them, you know, it was like they were much more skilled at like repelling. You know, they
definitely had the defenses set up and have successfully defended their real estate far better than anybody else has, mainly because they were so, shall we say, xenophobic, and they didn't like letting people in. So it kind of makes me wonder, like you said, why all of a sudden they all seem to be caught with their pants down.
Yeah. But maybe we will get to see some of that in part 3. But yeah, I just kind of was like, when that when that scene came on, I was like, what? Like, wait, how did they do that? And, you know, it's like, I guess, you know, there was Commonwealth soldiers there, you know, helping them and stuff like that. So it was just kind of like.
So when they got the radio message to execute Order 66, they were able to do it quickly.
Yeah. So I just, I'm that scene has me nervous.
Yeah. Well, since you already talked about it, I want to go ahead and hit it with mine. Is that when you were talking about Leah and Maggie, it's just that Leah fell into the old classic Bond villain trope. And actually, my other favorite line from The Incredibles, don't monologue.
Exactly.
But yes, Leah goes all Bond villain because she gets the drop on Maggie and she captures her just so she can take her back to her secret lair, tie her up, and give a long exposition about why she's going to do what she's going to do. And of course, the longer it takes, just like the slowly descending death mechanism that slowly lowers the good guy into the pool of sharks, it always gives them a chance to escape. And so, of course, while Leah is venting her spleen to Maggie about how much she hates her and wants her to die horribly, this gives Maggie an opportunity to fight back and escape. Which, while like I said, I did love the fight scene, I kind of agree with you that it shouldn't have gotten to that point. Is that if you want to gloat over their dead body. Because the more opportunity you give them while you're telling them why you're going to do what you're going to do, that gives them a chance in the writer's room to figure out a way to get out of it. And since you mentioned slasher movies, it's always the reason that I've never been a huge fan of them, but it's always, you kind of know who's about to die. Mm-hmm. When you're all upstairs and the one attractive girl in lingerie decides to go to the kitchen to get a snack, you know she's going to die. As I've said before, if said attractive girl in lingerie would have been carrying a gun with her, the movie would have been over in about 5 minutes. She goes downstairs, the lights go off, the guy pops up, she screams, she double taps him again, the end. But that's still the whole thing that, in my world of slasher movies, it would be, I'm going to, it's like, I'm going to go down here by myself. It's like, oh no, it's Michael Myers. Bang, 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 bang. Then immediately go back to where the other people are. Stay together. Anyway, but yeah, it's the fact that of course she had to sit there and tell Maggie all the stuff. And of course Maggie gets a chance to escape. Granted, I think it was appropriate in the end that Daryl is the one that did her in, even though, Daryl was trying to do the right thing and let her go. As we all know, no good deed goes unpunished. And of course, if it's going to be Leah or Maggie, we know who's going to win out in the calculus of that equation. Let's go back to Hilltop when all this first kicked off. I was going to say, so the guys that were searching the building, so they trip Maggie's booby trap and blow themselves up. I don't know. I guess my thing would be, if you're clearing a building at night like that, the key is you go very slowly. And I think obviously somebody went too far, too fast. If you're going to breach a door like that, kind of not do it. There's a point to go with speed, and there's also a point where you kind of go, well, let's just take our time. So that also segues into, now that we've escaped, we know that somebody's attacking. Don't stand up, Marco. You've already had a bunch of guys coming in shooting to try to take you out. Just don't stand there to make yourself a nice, obvious target, which is kind of the first thing I thought of when it's like, yay, we escaped. Bam. Sadly, it reminds me of Monty Python's sketch they did, where they did a takeoff on an old Ministry of Defense training film from World War II, and it was, how not to be seen. And so there was, a bush in the middle of this open field, and they go, this is, MC Cadwallader from so-and-so. Mr. Cadwallader, stand up, please. And you see the guy stand up out of the bush, and you hear a rifle shot and the guy fall over.
I forgot about that one, yeah.
It's like the way to survive is not to be seen. And I'm kind of going, well, you've escaped and everybody else is crouched down behind the car and you're standing there. It's like, you might as well have gone ahead and said, yep, he's going to get shot. And sure enough, yep, he got shot.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, it just stuck out like a sore thumb.
Yep. And especially if you know that you've got people that have guns that are coming to get you. If it's dark, use the darkness to your advantage. But the problem is, if the fire is, the place was burning or something was burning and there was light playing across the ground there, if you're standing up, you're a nice, big, bloody, obvious target. So.
Oh, poor Marco.
Poor Marco. I know. And of course, my weak sauce that will be my perennial weak sauce is, of course, they took the guns, but they didn't take the ammo.
They never do.
They never do. Because before they would have bugged out, I would have, after he already shot Romero, unbuckle his belt, pull his ammo pouches off of his waist, and then run away. If you've got to bug out in a hurry, at least grab somebody's ammo. Because once again, you've just been in a firefight. So if you had 30 in the gun when you started, you probably don't have 30 now. And again, the whole advantage of having a gun is having something to shoot out of said gun.
Yes. And something that is very in limited supply.
Oh yeah. And then the sidebar to that is, so as they're traipsing through the woods, clearing all these houses off on this patrol, the thing that struck me the most was that no one, and I mean no one, not our guys, not any of the Commonwealth guys, no one was carrying a backpack.
Ah, good point.
No one was carrying a canteen or a water bottle. Just speaking from experience, as a scout leader, anytime you go on any type of hike, walk, anything that would lead you away from your camp, you carry something with you that has at least a little bit of food, your poncho, and water. And it has always annoyed me that it's like, oh, we're going to go another 5 miles or another 6 miles, and they're just whatever they've got in their hands and whatever they've got in their pockets. That just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's the little details that they obviously are not even doing.
It's just that little annoying detail of practical experience that bugs me, because I'm thinking, even if nothing happens, even if you just walk out and walk back, I mean, okay, so you're a little further north. They are actually filming in Georgia. I try to keep that out of my mind as much as possible. But water's important.
Yeah, kind of.
And yeah. And even if you were going to rely on the first creek you find, you're not just going to stick your face in a creek and drink it, because you'll get, like Giardia, you'll get some sort of little amoebas in your system, and those do not react well to your innards. They will make you very, very sick. And if you're sick, you're combat ineffective. So I just, like I said, that's just one of the little irksome things that has just always gotten to me. It's like, yeah, we're going on this long expedition and we're not carrying squat with us. Now, if they were on the horses, I could see that, because you've got saddlebags. There's right. Accoutrements and impedimenta attached to said horse. But if you're just out walking and you've got no pack, you've got no gear other than what you've got in your hands, your stick or your bat or your whatever. I mean, come on, guys.
It must be it's like a first person shooter or something like that. So when they kill whatever, it's like all the ammo and stuff just
magically reappears.
falls out, and then they just have to run over it, and it's like ding, 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 and then they have like this like unlimited like like inventory system that's just no, but that's just funny. It is kind of like, it's just like when you deal with that with fear, it's a little like, oh, how many batteries do you have? How much gas do you have? You know, it's like you just always have everything you need when you need it. And then it's...
Yes, magic batteries that last forever and magazines that never go empty.
Empty. And headshots everywhere because everybody's so good at that. Oh, all right. Well, if you had nothing else left for week...
That is it, sir.
Awesome. Well, that takes us into our What Sauce.
What?
And our first What Sauce comes from Mike from Asheville, and he says, Maggie going toe-to-toe with Leah, a trained soldier, as long as she did. Maggie is a badass, but come on. Huh. Well, I will just make a comment of that because I didn't put it in my What Sauce. This is more kind of, I should have probably been in my weak sauce, but the whole fight scene, though, and they do this a lot in movies and shows or whatever, that it's like, you know, okay, yeah, Leah is a trained soldier. Maggie knows how to fight. I wouldn't say that she wouldn't know how to do hand-to-hand combat, you know, or dealing with, you know, because they deal with walkers and they've dealt with people. But I thought I was kind of seeing them when they're fighting that there was always like, you're lunging after the person you want to hit or whatever with your knife. But then they make these like really wide, like, arm movements, like with their like trying to stab instead of being like a little bit more closer. It just seemed very like, oh, you're like kind of flailing your arms out, which makes it easier for you to be taken down. And I kind of took that as, I kind of just noticed that and just being like, oh, okay, yes, because, you know, Leah's got to be able to grab her and then throw her down to the ground. And it was just seemed very like, okay, it's very like open, like you're not.
Well, it's sort of the thing you run into with stage fights, that if you compared this to like an MMA fight, it's very different because you actually are really fighting. That the trick to stage fighting is to make it look as realistic as possible, but yet have everything choreographed and telegraphed so that everybody reacts appropriately. You know, I will say, if you look at that fight scene, that you can tell that Maggie had more of a brawling style. And if you look at Leah, she actually did some martial arty type things. You know, when she grabbed her and did that, you know, flipped her on her back and some of the other stuff. But the only thing I'll say, Mike, is no matter how well trained you are, you can't discount, you know, that rush of survival adrenaline, because, you know, I have seen it before in my careers that just because somebody's really, really well trained, if somebody just goes all, you know, crack-inspired spider monkey on them, it's sometimes that levels the playing field. You know, determination and, you know, that rush of survival adrenaline can kind of level the field. Because if you think about it, Leah has the training and she just has this burning hatred, but, you know, Maggie's going all mama bear, and she's, you know, she's kind of seeing that she's got to give it all she's got to survive. Mm-hmm. So I will not, like I said, I'm not arguing your what. I agree to a point, but also, like I said, there's some intangibles in there. So next up, we have Renee from Atlanta. And she says, man, my nerves were so bad when sadistic Sebastian walked in on Max, and it definitely seemed like he picked up on the fact that she was up to something. And she's got two big-eyed emojis. How could anyone be that whiny and egotistical that he thinks the world totally revolves around them? He better die a worse death than Ramsey Bolton being eaten by his own dogs. And she has anger face, anger face. Then she says, LT, please explain how Leah survived that house blowing up. The only thing I can guess is she wasn't in there and she came up from behind the building because she did say to Crazy Eyes that she drew them out. That's entirely possible. My feeling is that she was in maybe an Overwatch position. She set up somewhere where she thought the likely avenue of egress was. So when she sent the team in to clear the building, she was expecting people to come running out a particular exit, and she could just shoot them at her leisure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if she was in the house, I'm going to assume that since she was kind of running things, she might have been on the bottom floor, so she would have been closer to the doors. That said, I don't think she was inside. I really don't, because it would have been, considering that we saw the one guy that was inside that had basically his eyeballs dislocated from the explosion. I don't think she was inside.
Yeah, and then and you're right. Like she was that, that she was kind of in command of her team. So it would make more sense that, I'll send you guys out, my soldiers, and then I'm sitting in the back. And
which, granted, even in a situation where you're doing something like that, it's not the job of the person in charge to be on point, because if you're on point, you're more likely to get killed just because of, just the statistical odds of going in first. You don't want your key leader there. Your key leader is probably going to be further back in the stack. So it does stand to reason if she was in charge of the team, she would not be the first one in. So just given how this thing rolled, I expect that she was outside.
Yeah, agreed, I think. All right, well, then next comes from Alma from Sacramento. So with Hornsby taking all 3 communities over, where will our people go? ? And then shock face. And what the heck could he possibly gain from these communities? I guess that is probably part of Hornsby's plan all along, cussing face. I was left really worried for Oceanside. I feel like the soldiers were lining them up to shoot them. Eek. I guess we gotta wait and see in part 3 of season 11. Cuss face. I also was left worried for Max because Pamela is obviously not completely ignorant to Hornsby's shenanigans. LOL. Yeah, I don't think we know what he wants with the communities, other than he's kind of, it seems like he's trying to have an outside influence and base outside of Commonwealth. So it's like him, Pamela wasn't really even on board with like, hey, what are we doing visiting these places? They're kind of too far. And he must be playing some, game or, something with Pamela to just be like, oh, no, but like, I can like help, like basically these will be our outside communities that we can use to like gather supply, who knows what, or he's trying to basically build his own, army outside of the walls.
Well, and see, that's kind of my thing, is I think his idea is, I'm going to get these communities and I'm going to get them set up, and we're going to offer people, offer the right people an opportunity to say, hey, you can go live here now. And it's his chance to say, well, look, Pamela, I'm running these places now, and I'm not just your second in command. I'm an equal. I'm a peer.
Yeah.
That I think this is his, I take it as this is his little power grab to kind of set himself up as his own little governor of his own little communities.
Right. Yeah, that's for sure.
And as far as we know, now that he's got these communities that are sort of set up, then who's to say that he's not going to take his opium production facility and move it to Hilltop?
Right.
So that they have a nicer place to set up with walls and more structures and better things. And we don't know if he's actually gotten other communities that had less stuff, say there was another apartment complex that was more amenable to his smooth talking, or some other small pocket community we don't know about that Toby brought into the fold. And he's going to say, well, if you want to work off your debt to the Commonwealth, we're going to move you over to this new place called Alexandria, and you can set up there and you'll have a house as long as you do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Well, we shall see, because, I mean, obviously will be like what they're going to be having to explain with everything that happened. Goodness.
Yes, and we still have the wild card in the mix. We still don't know what Carol's going to do.
Right. And we didn't see her at all this episode.
No, we didn't.
Oh, Carol, what's she up to? All right. Well, thank you, listeners, for your What Sauce. That goes into ours. And I only just had a little one. And whether or not, if I'm thinking wrong or not, but it just, the way it came off, the wording of it, and it was on that newspaper that, Milton throws on Max's desk, that obviously our, group of, private investigators and news reporters, obviously got, some kind of, indie thing going on with, like, a separate paper, because I don't think that was the main paper.
I don't think it was.
Yeah, because it was like, that's just the way it was printed. Anyways, though the headline on the article, and it said Milton's adult son uses innocence in deadly money grab. And then I was kind of like, adult son? And I'm like, does she have a younger son? Like, I just don't know why you would specify that the son is an adult if Sebastian's the only child, that she has. And it seems like everybody in the Commonwealth would know that. So it just seemed very kind of weird that it specifically said adult son, because why would you say that if that's the only one? So I don't know. That was just kind of my thing. My only what.
Well, not being a newspaper person, I don't know if that was just a stylistic choice, or it does beg the question, like you said, well, does she have any more kids that we just haven't seen?
Right. Or maybe if she did, they didn't survive or something. I mean, stylistically, I guess in a journalistic mindset, because I mean, not that I am that great. I mean, I did take journalism in college, but it's like I could see maybe in a sense of like, like the AP style of like, to like kind of make it clear or something like that you would say adult son just to somehow make it more clear or apparent. But or maybe it's a play on like, the adult son who uses innocence in deadly money grab, so making it like, not a child doing some horrible thing, but an adult doing a horrible thing. So I mean, that it just, I don't know, it struck me just like, like it, because that does put a question, like that kind of description or descriptive adjective to that noun kind of like opens a question, like, well, but then does that mean she has more? And I think, don't we know from spoiler comic book world that she only has the one son? Like, I don't know if she had other children, because I haven't read that far.
Right, and it does. I agree with you that she got like Pamela Milton's love children sequestered away somewhere. I think that if there was more than one, we probably would have already known.
Yeah,
it just seems like that would be a wrinkle that would be, something. I just don't see why they would go, but wait, Pamela Milton has another child.
Right, because this is not a Maury Povich episode.
Well,
like, you are the father.
And it's not, this isn't like, work brain. This isn't like the secession of the Queen of England. It's not like they go, well, if Sebastian cannot fulfill his duty as heir, it will fall to her sister's son. You know,
like twice removed to
Edward,
to the other side.
The 14-year-old Edward the Pretender is now the heir to the throne. Yeah, it just, I think it was a stylistic choice. I think it was just like you said, I think it was just something to be headliney, but it kind of begs a question there that has not been asked yet.
Yep.
And I think it's just to make it, make it look worse or as bad as it is.
Yeah. And it was really quick in that scene, so it's not like you were like making it a specific. It was just kind of like, oh, here, if you catch it, you see some, you might be able to catch the headline. But she obviously pissed her off, though.
Well, right. And my take on part of that was it looked like somebody had bootleg printed that page and stuck it inside the regular newspaper, kind of like an Ollie's ad or something that you just sort of, how you always have the sale flyers that are stuck inside the regular newspaper. It just seemed to me that this was kind of like, oh, we're going to sneak this in so everybody who gets the paper will suddenly see this.
Yeah.
Because just by the look of it, the part that had, what is Milton hiding seemed to be a separate page from the rest of the newspapers. Because when she plopped it down, it looked like it was a regular newspaper with, bifold with multi-pages in that one page on top of it.
Yeah, I didn't quite, now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, it was, because it was a big stack of stuff, so, but yeah, obviously they have like what do they call those things, those ditto machines, because it looked like that blue ink, and they made copies of it.
Mimeograph.
Is that what it was called?
Yes, the good old days before there were Xerox machines, when you got your fresh purple copies of things and you hoped the teacher just made it because it smelled like that, that chemical solvent. So you went, oh, fresh mimeograph.
Got it. Oh, see, the 80s were the best. We were exposed to, I'm sure, all sorts of deadly chemicals.
The fact that to do mimeograph, you had to have the machine had the big drum, and you did the master copy, which was on like kind of parchment paper, and it had the chemical in the tank, and you turned the handle and it went cha-chunk, 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 and it spat out all the mimeograph copies that, like I said, had that lovely purple typeface, and you could tell how many copies had been made because then the lettering got kind of hanky and weird. And like I said, it smelled like solvent. It's like education, fresh, hot off the press.
Oh, good times.
In those heady days before Xerox machines were everywhere.
Yep. All right. Do you have any other what sauce?
Well, I think I've pretty well beat the wheels off everything I was thinking of. Other than the fact of, we've gotten to this point and we got our cliffhanger, but my what is still going to be, okay, so where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Because Daryl, let's sort of box score this. We didn't see, we know that Ezekiel, Carol, Eugene, Connie's sister, and Rosita are still inside the Commonwealth.
Right.
Daryl, Aaron, Gabriel, Maggie, Negan, Ms. Negan, Lydia, Elijah, and the rest of the people from the apartment are still outside on the run. What I wonder is, where are they going to go? Where are they going to bunker up? And is Hornsby going to be able to get back to the Commonwealth to crack down on the rest of our folks that are still inside town? So while Hornsby's been out chasing the folks outside the wall, doing his nefariousness, now that the ball has dropped and Pamela kind of knows that something is going on with people, diming Sebastian out, I just wonder what the next thing is going to be.
No, I mean, that's going... Yeah, I mean, we'll have to obviously see, but yeah, it's kind of like now there's like kind of two fronts going on. So
Yep.
like, how are they going to meet up in the middle, or is it going to be just kind of a big
right? And I understand this is part of the thing of the cliffhanger, but to me, it's hot sauce only because I don't know, what are they going to do now? That's where is this story going to pivot now? Where's drawing a blank. Where's Mercer going to fall down on all this? What about Princess? What about, again, all the folks that are inside the walls with the stuff that's already in motion? How is Hornsby going to explain what all happened when they were out in the field? And how is that going to affect things?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's kind of my what is, so what's next?
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's get on to our sad and aw sauce. Aww. All right. Our first sad and aw sauce comes from Dieta from Detroit. She says, Maggie trusting little Herschel with Negan. Wow, didn't see that coming. A couple shocked emoji face. I guess concerned face. I don't know.
Well, and Renee from Atlanta says, sad. Marco died real quick. I'm just happy it was not any of our peeps, which Marco was kind of an add-on. So
he was a Hilltop resident.
Yeah, but he was still not. He was like one of those. I'll explain about that in a minute. I was going to go somewhere with it, but Maggie having to leave little Herschel with Negan, knowing he's the one that killed his dad, really touched on my heartstrings because as a child, he doesn't understand that everyone has killed someone that someone loves. I really don't understand how this is going to play out because little Herschel is not playing with Negan. I know when he shoved Negan's hand off, it was not meant to be funny, but I couldn't help but laugh. Facepalm, facepalm. Negan was looking all pitiful. I kept rewinding my TV to watch that scene over and over again and thinking Maggie may be coming around, but little Herschel is definitely not. And she has some all sauce. She said, Eugene and Max sitting in a tree. Kissing. Like I said last week, please let the both of them live. And she finishes with some praying hands. All right. Well, our last bit of sad and all sauce comes from Alma from Sacramento, who says, rest in peace, Marco. Sad face. Yes, you were a background character, but you were there for a while.
Aww.
Oh. You had your 2 or 3 episodes in the sun, sir. And
that's usually not a good thing either.
Well, so far he outlasted all of the Terminator alumni. So
yeah, that's true. And he also, they were a couple episodes ago, kind of like, he was kind of having feelings for Lydia.
Of course.
When she was so then for that to happen, so I'm curious, like how close or how far did that even go with Lydia, to before that we haven't seen? Or was this just like the budding romance to him trying to get enough nerve to go like, hey, Lydia, you want to go on a date? And then boom, he's gone.
It's the horrors of teenage romance in the apocalypse. One minute you're trying to show off for your potential girlfriend by shooting walkers off the wall with a bow, and the next minute You get shot in the grape by a bad guy in a black uniform.
Oh.
Oh.
All right. Well, thank you, listeners. Did you have any sad or awesome? I kind of agree with everybody else. It's that.
Yeah, and I will still concur, as I said earlier, is that finally Eugene and Max.
Yeah.
Finally, because I want Eugene to be happy, and I think that Max is actually a perfect fit for him. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, like
because we don't know, because this is Walking Dead. We don't know what tomorrow will bring, but for now they are happy and coupley, and that will have to give us some solace depending on what happens next.
Yes. I wouldn't mind having that being the happy ending at the end, because it's Eugene and everything he's been through. It's like, come on, give him something to like, spend the rest of his life happy with a smile and get through all this.
Yes. Repopulating the world with little weird intellectual mullet kids.
Yes, that's how civilization comes back. All right, thank you everyone for your sad and aw sauce. So that leads us into our feedback.
We can talk about it. Done talking. Time to listen.
And we didn't get any voicemail this week from, Renee, but she gave our feedback, her voicemail earlier, but she did leave some written feedback. So we will go into her feedback, and she says, overall, this was decent, but not anything to boast about. I've become accustomed to The Walking Dead not going out with a bang when it comes to their season finale. I'm just happy Leah, the hooker, cry face, or rolling on the floor crying, died. Those Commonwealth soldiers need a lot of training if they think for 1 minute they can go against our peeps. I'm also happy that our little podcast family keep going for a long time, because woo-wee, they have a lot of spinoffs headed our way. Peace and love. Peace emoji.
Yay.
Yes. But, yep. You are right, Renee. There's a lot of spinoffs, it seems, coming our way.
We're going to be spinning. So, we got some feedback from Dieta from Detroit. She says, I think they were trying to put too much into the last episode. We had this group with the sneak meeting about the Commonwealth. Hey, look who shows up. Nadia. Haven't seen her in a while since the Halloween ball, but hey, she's down with the uprising and brings Ezekiel into the group. Now we, the newspaper crew, and Eugene and Max looking like the Scooby-Doo gang trying to solve the mystery of the list. Facepalm. I think that's a winking face. They could have saved that story for next season. It really didn't move the story. Well, except for pissing off Pamela.
Yep.
Let's talk about Sebastian. Was he drunk? And why was he looking at Max like that? I thought he was going to force himself on her. Just weird, especially after she told him his mom was already gone. So now our group is pissed off Hornsby, so I guess he ran home to the Commonwealth real quick to get more soldiers to take over our communities again. Where are all these soldiers and extras coming from? And how was he able to take over the community so quickly, and they didn't even put up a fight? Facepalm. Did our people go into hiding after the Leah fiasco, so Hornsby had enough time to take over? I guess we'll find out next season where everyone went and where the surplus of soldiers are coming from. I agree this episode didn't give the movement we needed, so they needed to move this along expeditiously, like Emma said, and give us the ending we deserved after 11 seasons. And apparently Alma replied to her and said, yeah, I was left with a lot of the same questions. What I really don't get is why Hornsby finds our community so valuable. They're falling apart and most of the people are gone. And Dieta replied back, that's a good one. Didn't even think of that way. But yeah, what's with his community obsession? And she's got chin scratch, and chin scratch. And she finishes up with, oh yeah, LT, I know what horror film April reminded you of because I thought the same thing. I think it was The Shining with Shelley Duvall and Jack Nicholson. And no, I swear, I've seen this gal before, and she did like 80s cheap slasher movies. But she had, brown eyes and had the same kind of wavy, black, stringy hair, and she screamed a lot the same way, had that same Shelley Duvall-ish sort of blank, shocked, big-eyed expression on her face. I'm still looking. I'm going to find her.
Yeah, I wonder if there's anything on IMDb or see what.
Yeah, but I swear I can't think of her name. But I want to say she was at one of the cons I went to.
Oh yeah,
but she's, like I said, she's one of the Scream Queen B movie girls. And I mean, like I said, every time I saw April, that's who I saw. So
yeah, well, maybe it'll come to you one of these episodes, and you'll think about it. Well, thank you, Dieta. But yeah, Sebastian, it was kind of hard to tell if he was drunk, and that's what I assumed. But then there was some kind of times though when he was talking, it was almost kind of like he was. I mean, he could have been on drugs. That's kind of the other thing I was thinking.
Well, and he's just that kind of a jerk. I mean,
yeah. Well, yeah. He just.
I think that he would be. I think he would be that level of jerky, whether he was drunk, stoned, or sober.
So yeah, yes, and having mommy issues at the moment. So.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, Dieta. All right. Well, next is Emma from the UK, and she says they're going to have to work hard and quick in part 3 to wrap this up and give us the ending we deserve after 11 seasons. Can they do it?
That's the $1.98 question. Or wait a minute. I guess for you that would be the £1.06 question.
I really, really hope they do to Emma, because it's like what we have, is it 8 episodes left?
Yep.
So that's still enough episodes to like at this point we can't have like another little side quest like where there's like another Reaper group that just like takes up all this crap.
No.
Like they're gonna have to. It's all about the Commonwealth,
yep.
And we hope that they somehow put in the CRM, because
yep.
That's still tied into all this, and where are they? And they haven't done any of that. So
we're running into the same analogy that I pulled with Brian and Ruthie on Discovery, that the airplane keeps getting bigger and bigger and the runway keeps getting shorter and shorter, to the point where I'm afraid they're going to have to land a 747 on an aircraft carrier.
And that's not going to.
That's not to say they won't stick the landing, but I don't know how pretty it'll be.
Yeah. Oh, well.
So, looks like next up is Clint from Indianapolis, who says, glad to see the ending of Leah, but seemed anticlimactic to have her come back just to easily die. I expected a better ending arc for her. Felt like a tool to fill the episode to the required amount of time. And I can't argue too much, but this is the show of the T-Dog trope. Anytime anybody gets any significant character development, they're probably going to die. Just like don't be the moral compass.
Yes.
And he finishes up by saying, keep up the great work, guys. Hopefully this continues with the anthology series and the upcoming spinoff shows.
Yes, this will hopefully continue. Yes, I think we'll cover it. So if that's what you're asking, Clint, yes. And it's also good to hear from you, because I know you, we haven't really had much feedback from you in a long time. So welcome, and hopefully you'll join us for Fear. All right. Next is Mike from Asheville, and he says, not a lot happened in this episode. I was hoping for a little more. It was just setting up the final part of the season, and we have to wait until fall. Throw me a freaking bone. Hint at CRM. Give me just a taste of that. The uprising has begun. Okay. Good for you guys. We still don't know everything that goes on in there. Hornsby is losing his cool fast, flipping a coin, messed up half his face. Seems very familiar. And there's a little bat emoji.
Harvey Dent.
I was just frustrated with this episode. I'm enjoying Fear more. Oh, but one cool thing in the preview we got was seeing Daryl hold Rick's gun. That made me feel something.
Yes, it did.
Yep. Yeah, Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just going to say, it's like, I am agreeing with you. They're setting it up and we want more.
I think that everybody's pretty much on the same sheet of music there. We've got Glennis from Toronto who says the Commonwealth are like locusts, stripping the people of their land and dwellings. That locust swarm is going to create a serious food shortage for all the communities. So the real intentions of the Commonwealth, or specifically Lance, are revealed. Just a question if Lance, and maybe also Sebastian, are acting on the orders of Pamela, but I think Lance is acting on his own agenda, as Pamela didn't seem outwardly too upset that Hilltop and Oceanside decided not to join the Commonwealth. Pamela has been severely embarrassed and compromised by those headlines that Connie has published, which signifies her death politically. It'll be interesting to see how she deals with this scandal. The correct way would be to call out and punish Sebastian, but I suspect she'll bring in the troops and order Mercer to find out the sources and disappear them too. This will also test Mercer's loyalty to the Commonwealth and may be the final straw for him to join up with the survivors. So, Daryl, Aaron, and Gabriel cottoned on to Lance's plan to kill them all off. Those cars and old buses almost staged like a soldier obstacle training course where they have to distinguish between civilian and foe. But these bullets were live rounds. No blanks in this kill game of cat and mouse. Those submachine guns with fixed bayonets are so awesome to shoot and stab at will. I wonder if 3-0 will reveal a TWD 6-scale Commonwealth soldier figure or Daryl or Rosita figure kitted out in that uniform with the associated weapons, or even a Mercer 6-scale figure. The stealthy moves of both Leah and Maggie in the woods were so controlled, with Maggie killing that walker soundlessly was suspenseful. But alas, Maggie was not quiet enough to put Leah off her trail and ultimately got captured by Leah. Leah's goadings of Maggie and Leah's old cabin were her eventual downfall, with Maggie summoning up the required strength to break free of her bonds. Maggie falls tooth and nail with Leah to prevent Leah from going after Herschel. But it was a losing battle that Maggie fought against Leah, since Leah was military trained, so Leah would always eventually get the upper hand. So Daryl's kill shot to Leah's head was the only decision that Daryl could make, as there was no reasoning or taking down Leah at this late stage. So Daryl had to kill Leah to save Maggie's life, so no hesitation or mental coin toss needed by Daryl, just shoot and kill, done. But if you don't toe the line, or you pose a threat to Lance's or the Commonwealth's plans, your plight is decided by a coin toss, whether you've decided to be a part of the kill squad or the person to be killed off. Lance seemingly tosses the coin at the end of the episode to decide the fate of the Oceanside residents. Dun dun dun. So, will Lance now make a run for leadership of the Commonwealth, since Pamela may be ousted now with the fallout from all that negative press? Is Lance going now to head the Alexandria and Hilltop communities and sinking that money Sebastian got into restoring Alexandria and Hilltop to their former glory? Because as of now, those two communities are just shells of what they once were. It was rather sad seeing Hilltop and Alexandria change of ownership, illustrated by those blood-red Commonwealth flags hung over the front gates and Commonwealth soldiers guarding up above. So the stage is set for the major showdown, but what can the survivors do against such a mighty force, especially if the Commonwealth conscript there are 50,000 civilians into the army to protect Lance's spoils of Hilltop and Alexandria? And she goes, okay, rambling a bit now. I'll patiently still wait for the real hero, Rick Grimes and CRM, to enter stage left, be it on the main show, the Daryl and Carol and Maggie and Negan spinoffs, or all a subset of each spinoff to set up the movies. I would have marked this episode 10 out of 10 if Rick Grimes or a reference to him would have appeared.
Yes.
And I cannot argue with that at all.
Yes, the Rick Grimes better show up kind of thing. I mean, they have to. There would be no way that they don't. It's just, how long do we have to wait? That's kind of the question. Thank you, Glennis. You definitely, that's... So, well, Hornsby, you know, it's like he's got his forces. And I know that Pamela kind of like was not really too much interested in Hilltop and Alexandria once they basically said they weren't, or well, at least Hilltop and Oceanside, that they weren't going to join if Maggie doesn't want to join. But I mean, that was kind of the question. Like at Alexandria, they're still rebuilding, and so there's soldiers there.
Right.
And I'm only assuming that in Oceanside, there was still either a residual force that was still helping them, and, we don't see that like Maggie's answer ever got to Oceanside. They could have just said, oh, we're still waiting to hear. Oh, you want to help you over there? Okay. Hey, you 3 soldiers go over there and, do this thing. So, I mean, that was the thing of how did they get like basically taken over so easily? And, it's like we know Hilltop probably like where everybody left after the attack.
Yeah. Well, and we don't we don't know if they were just hanging out,
and they just kind of put them in,
or they came back, or we don't know if they just came back by.
Yeah. So, but I mean, yeah, we'll find out like what happens. But I mean, also it's like, what does he want with the communities? I mean,
well, my theory still goes with he's got places that have a certain degree of infrastructure, and he can take people that he knows are his people and set them up. And, maybe he's got these guys that are like, look, you owe me a favor. So here's the deal. We'll set you up in this new house, and you can be off on your own in this satellite community. And all you have to do is, keep loyal and work hard, and maybe we'll let you keep the house when all this is over.
Yeah. But he's definitely, I think, working on his own agenda, though. That I think,
Oh, yeah.
Did say that. So it's, this, and we can kind of see that already that like, he's down there, with his forces, and then, Pamela Milton's up there at the Commonwealth, and then she's now having this, this political bombshell that she's going to have to deal with.
Yeah, her great existential crisis because of her douche canoe son.
Yes, but how but I don't think Lance is going to have any pull with I don't, they're not going to conscript the civilians to fight the war, because I think Lance is kind of on his own, Pamela is kind of on her own, and they're not sharing kind of the same mission or goal. So they're both kind of getting ready to kind of isolate themselves from each other. So,
right.
So that's, what our people are going to do about fighting, the Commonwealth. It's like, well, it's almost kind of like this is now on 2 fronts. So it's kind of like, they could choose to do either or. Maybe they can go after and tackle the Commonwealth, and Pamela, and then somehow kind of get that under control, and then Lance will be left on his own. So that could be.
Well, there's no telling there. I don't know. Maybe his grand scheme is once he gets these other cities established that he can say, kind of Julius Caesar marching on Rome.
Yeah.
That he can come back and say, I'm ready to take over my rightful place as head of the Commonwealth.
That's true.
Or maybe he'll basically offer Pamela some kind of deal and say, look, I'm way stronger and got more resources and more power behind me, and I'll let you keep your job, but you need to, start playing my way.
Yeah, that's definitely for that. I mean, well, it is one of those things where he might, even though there's the Mercer, side of things, but he might actually have a lot of sway with the soldiers. So it's kind of like he might have the military backing, and then that kind of basically seen that in history. That's where. Well,
and look at what Mercer was so torn up about, that he had these guys that were quote unquote his guys, but they were actually more of Sebastian's guys. So we don't know what the loyalty base of the rank and file are.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a whole nother little thread.
That's a whole nother thing.
Yep. Well, thank you, Glennis. That's great feedback as always. Hopefully we will see Rick Grimes soon. All right. Well, thank you all. I didn't really have a whole lot to actually just say. It's just more of kind of not to add, but I just thought like that at the end, whenever basically the Hornsby took over our communities, like, and throwing that Commonwealth banner over the walls of Alexandria and like Hilltop, and then like, you know, we didn't see that on Oceanside. We just saw him flipping the coin.
Well, they don't have any big walls to throw anything over anyway.
No, they have their front little gate maybe, but I did feel like it was very Third Reich feeling, like that we've seen that kind of imagery of like just the banners all like rolling out and stuff like that.
Well, and see, I would also say, if you would recall back to the kids show, the CRM had a lot of hangy banners with logos on it and in Omaha.
Yeah, they did. That's true.
Except I think theirs were blue maybe, but it's very much hang your flag, stake your claim.
Yeah, it was just the imagery of it. It just kind of struck me.
Show them who's in charge kind of deal.
Yeah. Well, and then it was kind of like they were nicely made. And I just thought that was like, just, okay, they must have a fabric factory or something, because it was like,
well, maybe they still have an offset printer somewhere.
Yeah.
that can make banners and signs.
Yeah, but they were actually pretty nice looking.
They were very nice looking.
Like they put all their resources into making sure they had really good banners to throw.
Well, branding is very important, Kyle.
Yes, and especially I'm sure for the Commonwealth, this is, that is an old world style thing.
Yep.
And the other thing, it was like the tapping code. I mean, I thought I was trying to think of like what song it was or what it was, the tapping code that Lydia used to be let in, where Negan and the Riverbend people were. And it was like, dun, 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 dun. And I just thought it was
shaving haircut 2 bits.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I felt like it was just funny, because it was like, isn't that, I mean, at least to me, it was like, isn't that what everybody's secret door knock is? Like, it just seemed very...
No.
Well, I've used that before.
It's not my secret door knock. It's not my secret door knock.
I don't know. I just thought it was very, like, recognizable and common. So I thought, not to say that I'm trying to say like, oh, like anybody could use it. I just thought it was funny that it was like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. That like didn't seem very like crazy. It was just a very simple something I've heard and done as a kid. So like, not that someone's going to come up and do that and try to like they're hiding. So anyways, it was just silly. And then the other last thing though is because Daryl said it, when he was talking to Romano when they were at the first house, about like where else to go look for. I guess they were clearing areas looking for the people that stole the guns. But he mentioned something about like, oh, maybe we can go check up Charlottesville, I think he might have said. Because he was saying something, it was like, oh, like I guess people that meet on the rooftop to trade. And I thought it was interesting that he was referring to some place that like I don't feel like we've ever really been told, and unless I've missed it through episodes ago. And so it made me think, I'm like, okay, well, if this is kind of a semi maybe known place to go trade with other survivors, then it's like, okay, well, then who are these other survivors? Like
right.
Yeah. So it kind of left this open to like, okay, who else is out there? Like what is it? Just he said it, so it doesn't mean anything, I guess is what I'm getting at. Because
you don't want to take a throwaway line to be gospel, but also you don't want to say, come back later and go, oh God, he told us.
Yeah. It just I don't know. It just kind of stuck with me. So do you have anything else?
I really don't. I think I've pretty well once again said everything I had to say before we got here.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. So that will lead us into our news, rating, and info.
There's a couple weird stories on the news.
All right, the ratings this week. The Walking Dead Season 11, Episode 16 got a 0.39 in the 1849 with 1.606 million viewers, a 0.60 in the 2554, and a 0.90 in the 50+. That's actually up from last week, which Season 11, Episode 15 got a 0.37 in the 1849 with 1.673 million viewers, a 0.59 in the 2054, and 0.97 in the 50+. So it dropped a lot in the 50+, gained a little more,
in the middle.
Yeah, in the middle, and gained more viewers, but still ranked over lower in the demo. This was interesting. Season 11, or Talking Dead, Season 11, Episode 16, because I guess it wasn't showed right after the show aired.
Correct.
Yes. So it dropped way down to 0.05 in the 1849 with 336,000 viewers. Compared to last week's, which did air after the episode, which got a 0.16 in the 1849 with 702,000 viewers. So once again, AMC not, airing Talking Dead right after the episode air, hurt it a lot.
Well, it's because they're trying to, once again, pimp their new show, and they always do the new show directly after Walking Dead, which always ends up smacking Talking Dead right in shorts. So I'll be curious to see how it turns out next week. Well, actually, this week, next week, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they did the same thing. And then, of course, they're not going to do Talking Dead every week after Fear. They're going to do it the start and at the end.
At the end. Well, it just seems very odd that you have this fan base of a show that, you want to do well. You have basically the after show that we used to get after every single episode, and that's when, you have it fresh in your mind, and then you want to see what, some of the actors are saying, or if there's any kind of hints and this and that to why
hints, cues, spoilers,
or just, still, it's just the inside, look of stuff. And
yeah.
It is very interesting that it's okay, well, you push AMC Plus all the time, literally every commercial is, get us a trial to AMC Plus and watch the show before anybody else, blah, 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 blah. That it's kind of if you're having a hard time with the show airing it after your headliner, then maybe just throw it onto YouTube or throw it onto AMC Plus and then do something else. Cause then it seems it's you don't really want even to have it on TV because it's interrupting when you want to put it.
Well, yeah, it's we want to have this show, but we want to make sure that we can hopefully, coerce, cajole, keep some of our Walking Dead watchers to watch this new show, which I don't know. It's okay.
I think with the way media and streaming and all that stuff has changed, that it's most people are probably only going to watch it if they're interested in it, but most people are not watching it when it airs. And they're not watching it when it airs.
And you would think if, TWD universe is supposed to be AMC's big franchise, that they would be nicer to it.
Yeah.
That if they've got this show, we want to see frickin' Hardwick talk about Walking Dead after Walking Dead.
Right.
Because once again, it's AMC can't understand that once they turn the channel, they may not come back.
Right.
And if you look at the ratings, that's obvious. They didn't come back.
Yeah. Well, I still have always said it though. It's viewing habits change. I don't watch hardly anything when it airs. It's it's way later, or the next day. And, I'm I still don't know what those kind of, the +7s or, anything like that of how much do they gain after it airs? Cause I know Brian used to cover that and I'm not sure where the stats that I look at, I'm I don't see that in there where I get that information. But I know before it was like they would gain a ton of viewers the 3 days after the show aired. So it's like I'm sure.
And the weird thing for me is that I'm not watching anything on broadcast that's new, pretty much. That all the shows that I'm watching, well, except for Fear and Walking Dead, that everything else I watch that comes out weekly is stuff that's on a streaming service.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'll watch it the day it drops if I can. But for the most part, like you said, it's different real estate.
Yeah.
That, there may be, depending on my schedule, the new Star Trek shows drop on Thursday, but I may watch, Picard, Halo, and Moon Knight on the same day.
Yeah.
I may watch all of them on Friday. It depends on how everything goes.
Well, and that's like when Picard and Discovery were kind of crossing, paths from the, it was like I was like Thursday nights, I would watch it in the evening because that's, when I would be done with work or done with other stuff. But then I would be like watching Discovery first and then I'd go right into Picard. But then, after that, it's like, and that is different because then, it's like I think Top Chef or something like that was also on, but I know it's recording. So then I can just pick that up right after that. And then if I'm too tired, then everything else gets pushed off, down the week. So yeah, I find the ratings thing a very tricky thing to like be a metrics nowadays. So it's like, while these numbers still seem pretty consistent, that is good news because it means that there is still, it's not like it's dropped off the face of the earth. It's,
right.
It's still staying consistent. The different demos are doing better than others, but yeah, it's like there's still people out there watching it when it airs, and that's good because I want the show to do good. It's a little weird why they choose certain things. All right, well, let's go into the parrots because I didn't have them last week, so I did get them. So they finally came out. I don't know why it was delayed because it was like, I think we were recording late and it just never showed up. But the parrots for The Walking Dead from March 19th to the 25th moved to 6th place at 44.1 times the demand of an average show. And that was down from the week before at 44.3. But then it was at 8th place. So this week and these are always like kind of like a week behind. This week for the March 26th to April 1st, The Walking Dead moved to 4th place with 49.4 times the demand of an average show. And of course, SpongeBob SquarePants was still at number 1 at 66.2 times the demand for an average show. Saturday Night Live has been hanging in at 2 at 51.1 times. And Game of Thrones actually jumped up to 3rd at 50.3 times. And
I think that could have been buoyed by the buzz of the prequel show again.
Yeah. Yep. And I put in here because we are recording this way late. I did actually see the parrots for April 2nd to the 8th. And The Walking Dead is number 3 with 51 times the demand of an average show. So it is moving up, which is good. So it's like it went from 8th a few weeks back. So now it's getting into the number 3 slot, which that's good. But the only thing is I don't believe that they show if Fear gets anything because I think The Walking Dead is just kind of all tied together and lumped in there. So we should see what happens when Fear starts, if there's a big drop or not. But otherwise, good to see some movement in the positive direction. All right. Well, that was it for the ratings. So let's go into news. Yay. This is, so there was a teaser of Tales of the Walking Dead that aired during the part 2 finale, and it showed it said 6 different stories. Well, the title was, it said 6 different stories and 1 undead world. And then it led to a shot of Parker Posey with a walker coming up to her, and she turned around and pulled like her hair back and said something like, just get it over with. And like the walker, it looks like it bites her. And I didn't see this when it aired.
I would say it did not look like it bit her. It freaking bit her.
I put it in there because I was kind of like, oh, maybe they're just trying to fake us out because I love Parker Posey. And I was like, no, you cannot be on the show just to like die in 2 seconds.
And I went, and of course, in the first part I thought of was, Parker Posey. Nom, 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 nom.
Oh, but it does look actually really good. So I was going through some of my news, like alerts that I get through email and stuff like that. And so at undeadwalking.com, they kind of went through more of the trailer. And so there were these 6 boxes showing, which like, you know, across the screen. So I guess that's representing the 6 episodes and maybe who's in them. So the top box showed Parker Posey and Julian Bell together. And then next we see Olivia Munn and Terry Crews. And then the top right-hand box showed Populu and Anthony Edwards. Then it went from the bottom left is, they're saying is a bit hard to tell, but could be Janela Pineda and Danny Ramirez. And then then it was Samantha Morton and Lauren Glazer, and then followed by Jesse T. Usher and Elizabeth Davids. So possibly that's probably what these 6 episodes are, those who are going to be in there, because they definitely bloated up the talent in this. So that, for one, is going to be very, very exciting. And I'm sorry. Just whose idea was it? Was it Parker Posey to say, "Hey, if you're gonna, put me in the show, I want to be in the very first teaser"? Because I was like screaming at my screen.
Parker Posey.
Nom nom nom. Oh gosh, but she's the best. So I guess one of the things though is if it's a 6-episode run, I think it is coming in the summer. And that it's wonderful to see this. It made me really, really excited because this definitely could be another, another Walking Dead show that has, that is not just going to be like, oh, here's here's our set of characters and basically a story for, 16 episodes. That it could be just like fun little glimpses into just different aspects of, The Walking Dead, or in the universe. So I don't know. I'm excited. I'm so excited. Next was Pollyann McIntosh Jadis from The Walking Dead and The World Beyond. She has been cast in an Irish horror thriller called Double Blind. Talking Dead returns this Sunday after the mid-season premiere of Fear. And this, I might cut this out because this is kind of way past it. Actually, no, because people could be listening to this out of order.
And we're doing it in order.
Yeah.
It's still not next week for us recording.
No, but returns after the mid-season premiere of Fear the Walking Dead. This week's guests are new cast members Warren Wawa Snipes, EP Ian Goldberg, and the Late Late Show's band leader and The Walking Dead universe fan Reggie Watts. The Fear the Walking Dead spinoff, that submarine show, Dead in the Water, is now available on AMC Plus. So if you have that and want to comment about it, we can in the next episode. This has changed because I did see it last night, but I'm going to have to watch it again tomorrow. So if you want to comment about it, and I know some of our Facebook members have, I think we'll probably cover it as a little spoiler section. I don't know if you, I've been trying to figure out how I could get a copy to you to be able to see it, or if we can watch it through Zoom, or I don't know if there's a way to stream it, but I was looking at that yesterday. But I did notice, and some of this got answered in the Facebook group, but I did notice so they sent an email to, AMC Plus viewers, and they mentioned it's stream all 6 episodes of Dead in the Water before Sphere starts. And I only saw the 1 episode, but it looks like this basically just broke up into 10-minute segments, and it does kind of cut off that way. So it's 6 episodes, kind of like the webisodes, and they just made it all into 1 episode.
Right.
And it does kind of feel a little disjointed here and there sometimes, but overall it was pretty good. So I think we'll probably give a little coverage of that next episode. Unfortunately, there's nothing that says if they're going to release it outside of AMC Plus, but I kind of would assume that they might do it after Fear is over.
We'll see. They have time.
Or maybe like towards the the very last few episodes, because there's a lot of information there, and it just kind of would be silly just to kind of like just hold that back just to try to get more subscribers.
Right.
I mean, you could pay, do the trial, get a different email, do the trial just to watch that and then cancel. So that wouldn't be too hard to do. Anyways, well, that was all the news we had for the Walking Dead universe. So LT, you want to tell people how to interact with us?
I shall. We want to encourage you to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. That's @WalkingDeadTTM. To submit your theories and feedback, most people post in our designated episode thread in our Facebook group. That's facebook.com/groups/WalkingDeadTTM. You can send us email. That's walkingdead@talkthroughmedia.com. If you'd like to use our feedback form, that's available on our website at talkthroughmedia.com/feedback. If you'd like to leave us voicemail, you can call area code 216-232-6146. Remember, that's about 3 minutes worth. Also, all of our new episodes are on YouTube. Just search for Talk Through Media and remember to subscribe and click that bell to get notified when we have new videos. Those videos go out first before the podcast.
To support us, like and review the Talk Through Media Facebook page. You can find that at facebook.com/talkthroughmedia. And the best way you can support us is on our Patreon. You can find that at patreon.com/WalkingDeadTalkThrough. And we would like to thank our Patreon supporters, Clint McCollum, Renee Murray, Dieta Patterson, the guy over there, Lawrence Todd.
Hello.
Me, Kyle McAdams, and remember that Dieta, Clint, and Renee will be getting early versions of the episode this week. And this week they actually got part 1, and they'll get a part 2. You can subscribe to us in Apple Podcasts or your podcast client of choice. And while you're there, give us a rating or review. And you can also leave us a review at podchaser.com. And actually there, you can rate individual episodes or the whole podcast. And as always, remember to share our posts on Facebook and Twitter when we post them, and tell a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to get us new listeners. And I'll just put a side note. The Facebook group is very, very lively bunch, and we've gotten a couple new members that have been in the Facebook group for a while, and are now joining into the discussion. So if you're listening to the podcast, but not a member of the Facebook group, or you are, but you just haven't really chimed in with some of your thoughts, please do, because we're having a lot of fun with them in there. All right. What else can you be listened here on Talk Through Media? So Brian hopefully will slowly, I'm hoping he can join us when Fear starts. Probably not this coming episode, but maybe the next one. He'll be a little caught up, but they are finishing recording the season 2 premiere Picard. They actually, I think they released the second episode, and they're going to try to record 2 more episodes this week, and hopefully they'll be caught up with Picard. I think Discovery still, the last 2 episodes of Discovery, they're still kind of catching up on, but they are coming, so so it shouldn't be too much longer. He's definitely getting back on track, and I'm kind of missing him on here, joining us here. So definitely, if you want to check out those podcasts, you can go to Star Trek Discovery Podcast.com. And you can also find the Star Trek Picard at StarTrekPicard.com. And they also have the Facebook group where more information can be found. You can find that at Facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM Podcasts. They also have a Patreon if you'd like to support them, and you can find that at Patreon.com/Brian and Ruthie. And we'd like to also mention that James and Kim are rebinging Deep Space Nine, and they also are covering Prodigy. So you can find them. They just started season 5 of Deep Space Nine. So yeah, if you want to kind of go through, I've been catching up a little bit because obviously with time, but I mean, Deep Space Nine it's kind of like Voyager, where I'll binge that like probably once every year or 2 years, and like I'll go back between Voyager and just watch it from start to finish, and then I'll jump over to Deep Space Nine, which I watched from start to finish.
And I've still not seen all of DS9, and I've still not seen all of Voyager.
Well, when you have a little time, you can just pop in there. But no, I'm like,
one day.
I've been excited though that James and Kim have been doing this, because I'm going to go back because with time, I'm like, I'm rewatching one episode at a time when I can, but now I've got their podcast to kind of join up with, and I'm loving it so far. It's still early, but now I'm excited that I'm like, oh, they're covering the whole season. So I got many more ahead. So thanks, James and Kim. It's awesome. And just a little note, because this will be starting up here this summer, LT, me, and Brian would cover Star Trek Lower Decks, so definitely stay tuned for more, because that season will be coming. They haven't announced when it's coming, but it'll probably be late summer, maybe after Strange New Worlds, maybe.
And that's going to be exciting too. We got Strange New Worlds.
I know that's coming May 5th or something like that. But anyways, so much Star Trek, I love it. And I love Walking Dead. I love them all. All right. Well, next episode of The Walking Dead, Season 11, Episode 17, basically Season 11, Part 3. It has not, I have not found any information on there. But this is where, so if it holds with the end of Fear, we could be looking at The Walking Dead returning sometime in June and July. But Tales of the Walking Dead, the anthology series, did mention that it's summer of 2022. So
it did. And when we saw the teaser for the main show, it said this fall. So my prediction is going to be, we're going to get some anthology show, we're going to get some other stuff, and the final is going to start, I'm betting, September-ish.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, because, for sure, they're not going to wait until October.
Yep.
They better not. So, we still have some time, but definitely have a lot more stuff down the pipe to keep us occupied. So next week, or this week, we will be covering Fear the Walking Dead, Season 7, Episode 9, titled Follow Me, written by Andrew Chambliss and Ian Goldberg, directed by Heather Capello, and the description on AMC Plus for Fear was Alicia fights off Arno and her worsening fever with a little help from a mysterious stranger. So, Fear, soon.
Yes.
All right, so until next time, I'm Kyle.
And I'm LT.
And this is The Walking Dead Talk. Good night, everyone.
Good night.